Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the eTrailer trailer hitch receiver here on a 2014 Hyundai Santa Fe. So here's what our trailer hitch is going to look like installed. Now with the eTrailer hitch, something that they do that I really like, it's going to be in regards to the finish. So our eTrailer brand of hitches here, they use a matte finish, and compared to some of the other glossier trailer hitch finish options such as those from Draw-Tite and Curt, the matte does a little bit better job, in my opinion, of blending in with the vehicle, and it also does a little bit better job of helping hiding the nicks and scratches that a trailer hitch has on the underside of a vehicle. It's also going to obviously protect the hitch from rust and corrosion as well. So adding a trailer hitch to your Santa Fe is going to be an excellent option. It's going to make your vehicle that much more versatile. So we could obviously use a trailer hitch for towing, but some other uses you may not be aware of. If we want to hit the trails, we can certainly attach a hitch-mounted bike rack, or if we just need to free up some space inside the vehicle for those long road trips, we can attach a hitch-mounted cargo carrier as well. If we are going to be towing, the trailer hitch is going to provide us with a Class 3 rating. That's going to give us a 6,000 pound gross trailer weight rating, which is the amount we can pull outward on the receiver tube. It's also going to provide us with a 900 pound tongue weight rating, which is going to be the downward force on the receiver tube. Now keep in mind, the trailer hitch and the vehicle are actually tested separately, so we want to go ahead and check our owner's manual for the vehicle's towing capacity and then abide by the lower of the two rated components. Keep in mind, we can also use this trailer hitch with a weight distribution system if needed. We have plenty of options here at eTrailer. So you'll be happy to know that because of the 2-inch by 2-inch larger receiver tube opening that we have, there's going to be plenty of bike racks and cargo carriers to choose from. I would definitely say the options for the 1 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch opening, which is the other available smaller size, definitely doesn't have nearly as many options to choose from than the larger size that we have here. So if we take a closer look at the actual receiver tube, we're going to have a 5/8 inch diameter hitch pin hole that will accept our standard 5/8 inch diameter hitch pin and clip. Keep in mind, this is actually going to be sold separately, but most bike racks and cargo carriers are going to come with their own. And then welded to the bottom of the receiver tube, we have our safety chain loops. Those are going to work great with the smaller S-type as well as the larger Clevis style. So now we have a couple measurements that are going to help you guys when you're selecting your hitch mounted accessories. To help you select your ball mount, we need to measure from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening. That one's going to be 12 3/4 inches, and that'll be useful. That way we can get the correct rise and drop to tow our trailer level. And then finally, we have the distance from the center of the hitch pin hole to the outside edge of the bumper. So that one's going to be about 5.5 inches, and that measurement there will be useful when we're selecting our folding hitch mounted accessories such as a bike rack or cargo carrier. That way we can make sure that while the accessory is in the stowed position, that it doesn't contact the bumper. So in regards to installation, this one's actually not too bad at all. It's definitely something I think you guys can do at home by yourselves. You don't need to have a lot of mechanical know-how, and just a basic tool set will allow you to get the job done. Let's go ahead and walk you through this process now. So to start off our install today, we're going to come into the hatch of our vehicle here. We're going to be flipping this little half panel up and back. And then in this little compartment here, we have our jack. There's going to be a little opening here in the foam. And we're going to have a little cap we need to remove there with a flathead screwdriver. And that's going to reveal the nut that we need to use to lower the spare tire. Once we remove that, that's going to reveal our nut there. So this is actually connected to the winch. So we're just going to take a 21mm socket and we're just going to loosen this to lower the spare tire. So the next thing we're going to do is actually go ahead and lower our exhaust here. So before we do that, we're going to take a stability strap here, cam buckle strap, whatever you have. We're going to use it to support the exhaust. So just like so. Then once we get the exhaust supported, I'm going to take a general purpose spray lubricant. We're going to have 3 isolators we're going to spray down, make it a little bit easier to remove our hangers. So we have one that's pretty visible here. There's one on the back side of this as well. And then we have one here on the other side of our crossmember. So it's pretty simple. Just go ahead and spray each of them down. Just make things a little bit easier to remove. we're going to come back with either a pry tool or an actual exhaust hanger removal tool. We can go ahead and just simply pop those hangers out from the isolators. So there's one, now we have two more. So now we're going to come to either side here. Now you can see these little plastic panels behind the rear wheels. We need to go ahead and remove those. On the outside here, we're going to have these little Phillips head push pin fasteners. So they're pretty easy to get out. Just take our Phillips head screwdriver. We'll gently remove that center section because they are plastic. Let it work its way out. Then we'll just remove it completely. So once we get these fasteners out on the outside edge here, there'll be a couple more up top. We'll just simply pull it straight down. Now that we have this side out, we'll just simply jump over to the other side and remove that one the same way. So before we lift our hitch into position, we're going to have two weld nuts in the bottom of the frame here. Now, depending on how old your vehicle is, we need to go ahead and clean these out. So what you first want to do is you just want to make sure that we can thread our bolt in. As you can see here, it's not quite wanting to catch. It goes in a little bit but then stops. So we're going to go ahead and clean it out. We're going to take some spray lubricant and then a wire brush. Do as best we can to get all that gunk out of there. And we'll reinstall our bolt here. And if it still won't go, we may actually just want to go ahead and thread it in a little bit. So you can see there that cleaned up quite a bit. We'll go ahead and clean it out once more. And we want to do these with all of our weld nuts we'll be using to install our hitch until our bolts thread in freely. So as you can see there, we have much more thread engagement now before we get resistance. So that should be good as far as cleaning them out. We'll just go ahead and repeat that same process for our other weld nuts. So now with an extra set of hands, we can go ahead and set our hitch up into position. We're going to start on the passenger side, come up and over the exhaust. And then we're going to secure it in place with our carriage bolts coming from the outside in. So on the driver's side here, we're taking our long carriage bolts, so it's kind of hard to show you before, but we can give you a little bit better explanation now. We're taking the carriage bolts, we're going from the outside of the frame in. Once we line up our holes there, you may need to maneuver the hitch a little bit, and then we're going to come out just like so. So on the passenger side, everything is pretty much the same, but as you'll see here, we're going to have this little plate that comes in our kit here, and that goes between the frame and the head of our carriage bolt. Once we have our carriage bolts in, we're going to take our flange nuts. Just going to simply thread them over the carriage bolts. So if you look at the carriage bolt here that's closest to the edge of our bumper, you're going to run into some issues with this bumper locator pin here when you're trying to thread on your nut. So I'm not saying that you have to modify this, but it's going to make things a little bit easier. I don't really want to fight with this, so although it is possible, I think the easiest thing for us would just be to go ahead and trim that bumper locator tool so it doesn't get in the way when we're messing with our hardware there. So I'm just going to take a Dremel tool here and just cut the end of that off. So once we have that locator trimmed, just go ahead, push our carriage bolt the rest of the way through, and then thread on our nut. And once we have those two nuts in there, we're going to have our two bolts at the bottom here. If you remember, we cleaned those out earlier. So you're going to take these smaller hex bolts in our kit here, along with a conical tooth washer. Make sure the teeth are facing up towards the hitch, and we'll just simply thread both of these in as well. You may actually need to put a little bit of pressure up on the hitch to get them to thread in properly. And once we have all of our hardware in place, we'll simply just repeat that same process on the other side. Keep in mind, the other side only uses this bolt here. This one will not be present. There isn't a hole cut out in the actual flange of the hitch for it. So now we'll use both 19 and 17 millimeter sockets so we can tighten and torque all of our hardware to the specifications in our instructions. So now that we have our hitch into position, everything's torqued down, We're going to raise our spare tire back up into position, raise our exhaust into position as well, and then reinstall any panels that were removed previously. And that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the eTrailer trailer hitch receiver here on a 2014 Hyundai Santa Fe.